Hi, good morning, everyone.
Morning, Gina.
Hi, how are you, Brett?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. So I was dying laughing. We were going through pictures the other day, and we found an assortment of you from the year that you were an intern with us in
I know.
of clothing we had in the closet. We were dying laughing.
All right, go. All right, I'm just picturing what that could be.
Oh, I will share them all with you later. Don't you worry. We have a folder called, yep, don't you worry. We made an intern folder, and I'll send it on over to you.
I can't decide if I should say I'm excited or not.
You know what? You are sporting a years and years of Maccabi swag. It's something that you should be proud of.
Oh, yeah, I know. I remember exactly what you're talking about.
You guys were trying on all the different swag to try to use it as a marketing
tool. Yeah. I remember that exactly.
Great. It looks like, I just want to point out to everybody, we got a little note from Jeremy in the corner here. It seems like his microphone is not working, but welcome. So Jeremy, if you want, I'll leave the chat box open. So if you have any questions as we sort of go through this, please feel free to go ahead and ask your questions in there. So we will go ahead, give me 1 second, let me start our slideshow here, and we'll kick off on the training for today. So just to give you guys a little bit of a pretext to what we'll be doing is we're really just looking at how the experience has been so far. I know that I've been in communication regularly with Karen regarding some of the user stuff as far as it relates to your athletes. We're working on that. I'm working with RegPack right now. I have a call with them this afternoon to do a couple of follow-up pieces there to make sure things are on track, but did want to update you guys about that. And then again, we will stop intermittently for questions throughout the process. And as always, any questions that you have, please don't hesitate to ask. So again, today we're going to really be looking at the user experience, sort of talking about some of your numbers, where they are now, how the experience has been so far. We're going to talk about editing, follow up a little bit on the scheduler, and then just touch base with you on emails and sort of some of the things that we should be working on now in preparation that are going to have to go out in the next couple of days, in the next couple of weeks, and in the next couple of months. So as of this morning, you guys have 79 host families registered in the system with 80 additional family members on top of those. You have 84 volunteers registered in the system. You're looking at 137 athletes, 10 artists, 16 coaches and chaperones, and 1 delegation head, as Randy has gone in the system and registered. So the only number there that makes me a little concerned is your coaches and chaperones. We're at the point where if you have 137 athletes in the system, we do want to make sure we're pushing those coaches and chaperones to get in the system, if nothing else, just because they're going through a background check. And if, God forbid, knock on wood, this won't happen, but if somebody should pop, if we should get some feedback on somebody, you want to give yourself enough time that you can go ahead and find another coach or chaperone. It's the same thing that we tell all our visiting delegation heads. It's just precautionary. And again, there's no reason they shouldn't get in. It's good for them to familiarize themselves with the system. That way, as they're helping you recruit, as they're getting kids in the system themselves, as they're helping families register, they're familiar with the process and really understand a little bit of what it looks like and can help your families along the way.
So, Dina, at this point, this is one of my questions is we have people that are registered as host families that are also coaches. So one of my questions on my list here is, what do we do there? I know we register them as host families. How do we put them in as coaches?
So if you hang on about 2 slides, there's visuals.
Okay.
There.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course, of course. So anything else with regards to just, have you gotten any complaints? Have you gotten any feedback? Have you gotten positive feedback? Anything that you're looking at the system now and you wish we had done differently, as there's still the potential to tweak a little bit? And just wanted to get a sense again of how you feel the community has responded so far to the registration process. All right, Jeremy's raising his hand. Jeremy, are you near anybody who could potentially help you talk?
Gina, can't he call in?
He can. Jeremy, you can also definitely call in. Trying to think, unfortunately, I don't see the number. Does anybody know the handy way to do that? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, the number is in your notes. That's what I'm doing right now. So
yeah, it should be in the...
It's in the calendar event. I can give it to you right now, Jeremy, if you want.
Jeremy, I'm copying and pasting the dial-in information into the chat box as well, so you have that.
Okay. So then I won't. Yeah, perfect.
And that way we can get them in. Either one of those numbers, Jeremy, will call you into the line. Here's the meeting ID. And then this last one is going to be your participant ID should you want to enter it. Great, thank you. So according to what Jeremy's saying here, it looks like it's gone fairly well. They've had not a tremendous number of inquiries as he expected. So yeah, I mean, again, that's going to be it. And that's sort of our, our conversations from the beginning is we want to make sure you guys are comfortable with the system so that you guys can go ahead and provide that customer support as they go through. Again, of course, knowing that I'm here, any questions that pop up that you may not know the answer to, I'm certainly able to assist you with those along the way. I want to ask about background checks. Have you guys gotten any questions, any feedback? Again, for this year, we went about it a completely different way in a much more seamless process through the system where your users and your host families weren't having to enter their information separately into verified volunteers. Have we gotten any feedback with regards to how that process has been going so far?
No feedback is good feedback.
You know what? No news is good news in this situation, 100%. So sort of what we were talking about before, and Larry, the question that you posed is editing registrations. And you'll see sort of here on the bottom, we're talking about those different, when an individual is playing different roles at Maccabi, what that looks like and how we go about taking care of that. So first, I want to ask, has anybody found themselves in a situation yet where they've gone in and they've had to edit a registration, whether it be a name or a birthday or a level of participation?
I have, yes.
I have as well.
How's that process so far?
I found it easy to do. Is once I got to where I needed to be, I had to change somebody from, I think it was from a coach to a host, which is why I asked that question. So that way it was simple to do. And then I just tell them go back in. Now the new forms are popular once they log back in. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. 100%. Once they log back into their account, they'll be presented the new forms as they correlate to their new level of participation or any adjustment you've made to their registration. Great. So Jeremy, Brett, any feedback from you guys? Anything that you want to discuss before we dive into sort of what we do if there's different levels of participation?
No, I've had a really easy time with it. I actually was helping Shelly Rubenfire with some changes this morning.
Great. Jeremy, to that, and Brett, if you want to let your mom know, I did upgrade her status. I'll email you guys sort of a confirmation at the end of this, but she now has full access.
Great,
that's great. I think for me, the problem kept on being, since I work for Maccabi, she kept on saying to me, can you do this and can you do this? And she just wants to check out so many things because she's so curious about how many beds we have and things like that.
No, that's great. And the fact that you guys are interested in looking at that information now and looking to pull that information now is fantastic. It sets you up for success in the long run, right? This is not stuff you want to start first looking at 4 months down the road. You want to sort of set yourself up. It'll also give you an idea, right, for creative, strategic outreach as you need to. If you find that you're getting your host families from one area or you're getting your volunteers from one specific area, you can then formulate where other areas of outreach to sort of target. Again, there are lots of uses for the system, and we can sort of talk through once we get comfortable with the basic functionality, what else we can use the system for and sort of how we can extract information for use down the road. So what you'll see on the bottom of your screen here is how we're adding forms to a user. And Larry, that's the instance where we've got somebody who's a host family and is also a coach or chaperone, or we have somebody who's a host family who's also a VIP, or somebody who's a host family who may also be a JCC staff member or hold a different role. So the first thing I want to start by saying is anybody who's registering as a Detroit community on a higher level than spectator will automatically get spectator access. So if you're a host family, if you're a volunteer, if you're a JCC staff, if you're a vendor, if you're anything as it correlates to the local Detroit community, you will get spectator access. So unless somebody is just coming as a spectator, so they're a member of a family who's hosting, or they're an aunt of an athlete and they're not doing anything else, those are really the only people from your area who should be registering as spectators. Everybody else should be coming in the system at their highest level of participation. So the highest level is always going to be a primary household member. I want to make sure we understand the difference between a primary household member and a regular family member. So the primary household member, again, is going to be that user who's entering all of the exact information as it correlates to the specifics of their home. So again, if they have cats, if they have dogs, if they're kosher, if they're guac kosher, if they're sort of what they can accommodate. So the important thing to remember there is, in any chance we can, if we have somebody who's a host family member and a coach or chaperone, we want to ask that they register themselves as a coach or chaperone and then have their spouse or their partner or a roommate register as that primary household member. Because then their host family is going to be in the system, all the information as it correlates to their household is going to be in the system, and we have all their information as we need for them as a coach or chaperone. The caveat to that, of course, is we're going to have people that don't fall into that situation, right? Who are single individuals who are going to be host families and are also going to be coaching. In that instance, we want to get them in as a primary household member first. What we will then do, as you can sort of see on the screen beneath you, is we're going to go to their forms by clicking on their status bar. In the bottom right-hand corner is a little button that says Add Form. You'll click on Add Form and a drop-down menu will appear of all the forms that relate to every level of participation. In this example, we went ahead and just we gave Randy a VIP credential. So this is going to be in your instance where you may have host families or volunteers or people in your community who also, are VIPs and want to have VIP access for different things. So we'll be able to add that form and be able to print out that spectator or that VIP credential for them. In the example where somebody is registered as a primary household member and is now also a coach or chaperone, we will go ahead and we'll go to that drop-down menu to add forms, and we will add all the forms that correlate with being a coach or chaperone, except for the background check. That's the one important piece to know, is that a host family background check and a coach chaperone background check are both going to be doing right? They're both going to fill in the same information. So we don't want them to duplicate. So when you're adding the forms, you're going to add all of the coach and chaperone forms except for the background check forms. And then, Larry, to your point before, you'll go ahead, you'll reach out to the user and you'll say, all right, go ahead, log back into the system and you'll find there's additional forms. Again, the important thing to remember here too is we're not changing the level of participation. That level of participation is still going to be host family member, primary household member. Again, we're just adding the coach and chaperone forms and then asking that individual to log back in and complete those forms. Any question as it relates to that process?
And I just did this along with you for the person I was speaking of. So she's a coach and a host family. Her husband is not going to be participating. He runs a summer camp. So I just have her. I can't make him obviously the primary household member because he's not going to be around. So I just added those forms to her. So I'm looking good on that one, right?
So what was she initially registered as, a host family?
She initially registered as a coach. I switched her to host family, and now I just added those forms as a coach back in without the background check.
You got it. That was exactly the right thing to do. And Larry, if you want to give me her name, I'm happy to take a peek just to double check. But it sounds like you.
Yeah, Elizabeth. Yeah, Rosen. Elizabeth Rosen is her name.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me just take a peek in here right now so we can give you the feedback. But it sounds like you've done exactly what you needed to do. Yeah, and again, it's the reason that we need that host family form first is that that's what's going to go into the matching process when we start doing housing. And we want to make sure that we have that information. We want to make sure that information is present. The other thing to keep in mind is, again, the head of household and the primary household registrant it just has to be somebody over the age of 21 in the household. So while it sounds like this is a great situation where her husband is away and this makes sense for her, let's say you have an instance where it's a single mom and she's got a 23-year-old son or a 23-year-old daughter who's living in the home, that individual can also register as the primary household member, so we don't have to have the mom change her status and change her registration level. All right, let's see. Elizabeth Rosen. All right, so yeah, it looks like we've got the heads up concussion form for coaches and chaperones. You added the general information. Perfect. So that is all set. Nicely done, Larry.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the guidance.
No, of course. And this is, this is what we're here for. We're here to make sure that we're answering your questions and getting you guys comfortable doing this stuff. The schedule or follow-up. We're sort of at that point in time now where it's time to start revisiting your volunteer shifts. Your plans are solidified. You're starting to sign, or you have signed contracts for venues. You really are in a much more focused position logistically than you were, 3 months ago when you submitted those volunteer shifts. So we want to get you into the scheduler. We want to get you looking at those shifts. We want to get you making sure that those things are accurate and starting to make adjustments if they're not. It's always easier to make those adjustments before people have gone in and started selecting shifts. So I sort of turn to you guys and say, hey, have you had the opportunity to get in there? Have you looked at any of your shifts at all? Have you started thinking about this even with your committees to pose this question to them?
I have not personally. I have not done any of that scheduling stuff yet.
Neither have I. This is Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you. Brett, has this been something that you've touched on?
I've worked with it a little bit, but it's very, I mean, to me, it seems very intuitive.
Okay, great. So
yeah,
one thing that
I would agree with Jeremy on that one.
Great. So one thing that I do want to just kind of show you guys while we're in here is how to pull a schedule report. And that's going to give you the opportunity to sort of see all the schedules that are in the system. So what I would sort of encourage you guys to do is, as you're moving forward in this process, is to pull this full report, sort of break it down by committee, and take a look. First, you guys take a look at the highest level and see, you know, do these shifts still make sense? Do we need more? Do we need less? Do we need more people? Do we need less people? Has the location changed? Has the time changed? And then, sort of depending on your comfort level, share it with your committees and see if it's something that you want their feedback on as well. But it'll give you the opportunity to, again, sort of position yourself where you have up-to-date volunteer opportunities in the schedule. I mean, you guys are getting volunteers, they're coming in, they're starting to select shifts. And again, it's always easier to adjust shifts before people have entered themselves and selected them than after the fact. So I want to make sure, can everybody see the scheduler on their screens now?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So what you can see is if you go up here to Tools, you can see there's Reporting and Generate a Schedule Report. And if you go ahead and click on Generate Schedule Report, it's going to give you the opportunity to pull a complete report. And if you click Download Schedule Report, it's going to pop down as a CSV, and it's going to be a complete report of the volunteer shifts. Please don't panic. If you'll notice, we're looking at July. You guys are a main program in August, so that's the reason why that Excel has very limited. It just pulled for July. I don't want you guys to just see limited shifts here and panic. But as you can see, it'll show you the breakdown of the shifts, what you need, the time, how many people have taken the shifts. So you'll see example, this first one, there's been 3 shifts available. They've already been filled. There's no slots remaining. And this will pull you that general information. In addition, if you wanted to see this information, in addition to who has selected those shifts, you can go ahead and hit General Schedule Report, and you can merge it with one of your volunteer reports. So we go in here and we say, let's see, volunteer. We can select this report. It'll go ahead and it'll download. And you'll see that it's going to have all of the information for the individuals who have selected those shifts as well. So you'll see, we know that for the office help on the 1st, from 4 to 6, Cheryl has signed up. So again, this will allow you just to get a sense of where you are, what shifts are still available, who's taken what. And along the way, it will allow you to best sort of approach this process of finding volunteers, recruiting volunteers, and making sure all your necessary shifts are filled. Any questions about that process?
So once again, we don't have not everybody has access to that, right? Because I'm trying to follow along with you. I don't have that tool.
Yeah, it's going to be that highest level. So this is going to be something that Jeremy and Brett, you guys can pull and send out, and then everybody can work on the spreadsheet. This is also one of those things that you can put into a Google Doc or something that's a live share if you guys all wanted to view at the same time. So email follow-up and sort of where we are with emails. I know in our last conversation, we talked a little bit about emails from the system, them coming automatically versus being pushed, sort of what that process would look like. And now it's time to really make sure that we're creating those emails and driving them home. So I know in the last follow-up that I had sent you, I had sent a link with a variety of email samples. So it's time to revisit them, and I'll include them in sort of today's follow-up email as well. And it's time to take a look in the system and build out the following emails. And it's that volunteer confirmation email, right? Now that we're getting your volunteers in, they're selecting shifts, we want the system to turn around and generate those emails that say, thank you so very much for signing up. Here's your shift information. Click a button and add it to your iCalendar, or add it to your Google Calendar, whatever the case may be. So we want to make sure we're building the language out for the volunteer email, but again, it's going to include that shift details. The other thing we want to start building out is potentially your host family check-in. One of the things that sometimes easily falls to the sidelines is our points of communication, where somebody comes and they sign up in the system in January and February, rah, rah, boom, bah, everybody's really excited. Well, you don't have an orientation until May, and then you don't have a next follow-up until June. There's now been a window of several months where there hasn't been a touch point with this family. So one of the things we've always found really successful with our host communities is having check-ins and touch points with your host families and your volunteers. And it can be as simple as sharing information, right? You guys signed a contract for opening ceremonies. You're incredibly excited to announce where they're being held this year. But think through little pieces and little points of information that you're going to want to share along the way with those users. It'll continue to keep your community engaged. Again, we've only seen positive results from this. with that, it's also your host family check-ins, right? Thank you so very much for signing up. We're excited to share with you once your teams are met. Registration is open. Make sure you've registered, make sure your friends have registered, and encourage them, right? It's a sort of easy invitation in. Have you told your friends about the amazing opportunity you signed up for this summer? If you haven't, please share about this wonderful opportunity. One of the other things is that on all of these emails, we can make sure we're including all of your social media tags, all of your website information, anything that you'd like to make sure we're pushing people back to the Detroit community. So again, all it does is allow for points of communication and transparency with your registrants and the people in your community. So I encourage you to start thinking through what you may want to do there as well. One of the other things, again, orientations and open house nights. As you start scheduling those, putting them out in emails, making sure people know as soon as possible so they can put those sort of block off the times in their calendars and set those reminders for themselves. Again, one of the things that we can do is we can also make your orientations volunteer shifts. So if you wanted to, what we could do is we could send an email asking people to select a volunteer shift for orientation, and that'll allow you to track it a little bit, right? So you'll be able to, before people show up, print out a list. Inevitably, people will not sign up. People will show up who didn't sign up. People will not show up who signed